Before we create our reservation page with expansion panel list and expansion panel, let's just uh, see the documentations first, and let's learn about how expansion panel list and expansion panel actually works. So you have to go to the widget catalog, and inside the widget catalog we have the material components here, and inside the material components, if you scroll down a little bit, then you will find a dialog, alerts and panels section, and inside that you will find the expansion panel. So what you are seeing here is called an expansion panel. It's just a panel or an item that can be expanded and collapsed. So if I click this expansion panel, so you will have an official YouTube video for that. So how expansion panel work, you can also see this video if you want. But if you want to see the full example of how expansion panel and expansion panel list work together, you have to go to this expansion panel list section, and in this section you will have an interactive example of how these two things actually work. So let me wait a few seconds. So this is actually the output of this code right over here. As you can see, it is actually a list, and we can easily generate this kind of list using list view, but this is not a normal list view. This is actually an expansion panel list, and each of the item here, so this panel or this panel or this panel, these items are actually expansion panels, and expansion panels are expandable. So you are seeing a drop down icon here that is being animated when the panel is expanded. So this icon is actually toggled and changed whether the item is expanded or not. So this whole section is actually an expansion panel, and this expansion panel will consist of two sections. So this section is called the header section, and this section, that is a body section. So at first maybe we will only see the header section, and if a user or admin click this button, he will be able to see the body section as well. So we will have our data, whatever data we want to show, and obviously we will show the every reservation data in the expansion panel. So we have to divide our reservation data into two parts. Some data we want to show in the header section, and some data we want to show in the body section, but we only have the reservation object. And inside this reservation object, if we go to the reservation model, so as you can see, our reservation model, sorry, this is not the right class, the reservation. So this reservation model consists of bunch of properties, and we will actually show some data at the header section and some data in the body section. So we need to divide our reservation class into two other separate class. And if you go to the example section here, as you can see, it's nothing but some normal implementations of what we normally have in our each and every page. So we have a material app and a scaffold, and then we have an item. So this is like a model class, and this model class, this item will be used by every panel. So every panel will show every item, and this item is constructed with three values, like the expanded value, that means this section, a header value, that means this section, and whether it is expanded or not. To do that, we have a boolean value, and by default it is false. So now we have a function that actually generates a list of item. That means a list of this item, and this is some automatic on generation process. We are generating a list here. So list to generate number of items, maybe 2, 3, 4, whatever argument you want to pass here. The items of the list will be that, and we also have an index, and then we simply initialize the item with this static values with dynamic index numbers. Also, we have this my stateful widget and this build section, build function, and from this build function they have returned a single child scroll view. So this is important. Whenever you want to use an expansion panel list, you have to put your expansion panel list inside a single child scroll view, because unfortunately for some reason expansion panel list does not come with a scrollable functionalities. They have used a container, but we will not use this container. We will put our expansion panel list directly under the single child scroll view. And inside this expansion panel list, they have passed, or we have to pass few arguments like the expansion callback. So this is actually a function that will be called every time we expand or collapse this panel. And we have the children, so we need to pass expansion panels for this expansion panel list, so that we have a children, and this children is dynamically created by that expansion item list. That means that data, and also another argument whether this item is expanded or not. So this is very simple implementation, just like a normal list view, but instead of a list view, we will use expansion panel list. We will put that expansion panel list inside a single child scroll view, and every item of this expansion panel list will be an expansion panel. And inside this expansion panel, we need to build the header, the body, and whether we need to pass a Boolean value whether this panel will be expanded or not. So let's jump into our code. Before we build our widget, we need to build some model classes, because we need to make two versions of this bus reservation model class. We need some information for the header section, and we need some we will extract some information from this bus reservation class to build the body section. And I am going to create a new model class for that. Inside the model section, I am going to create a new dot file, and the name should be reservation expansion item. So just like they created this item over here, and this item class will consist an expansion value and a header value and a Boolean value. This class, our expansion reservation expansion item class, will also consist of that values. So I'm creating a class like reservation expansion item, and this class will be comprised with three sections: a header section, a body section, and a Boolean value. And the Boolean, I'm taking the Boolean value first, so it will be is expanded, and it will give a default value inside the constructor. But we need two more items, two more model classes that will be built from the bus reservation by taking some of the properties from the bus reservation model class. So inside the same Dart file, expansion reservation expansion item, I'm going to create two more class. So one class will be reservation expansion header, so that will be our header section, and this class will consist of some properties like the reservation ID. So int reservation ID, then we will have string departure date, then we will have a bus schedule object, so this will be a schedule, then we will have a timestamp, so a timestamp, and also we will have a reservation status, so string reservation status. So remember, all these fields are available inside this bus reservation model class. We are just taking the ID here, the schedule, timestamp, departure, date, and the status, these 5 fields. So we are taking these 5 fields and creating a new class, and this class will indicate the expansion header item. And we need to give a constructor for this. So this will be the constructor, and I'm making this constructor as optional named argument, and of course I have to provide a required keyword for each of this item. So this will be required, and I am copying and pasting this required key before every item or every field. So this is a class that will indicate the header section, and just like this class, I am going to create another class that will indicate the body section. Like, so class, the name of the class will be reservation expansion body, and we'll take the rest of the properties from this bus reservation class, and we will take the rest of the properties and put these properties inside this class. So like the customer information, so customer, then total seat booked, so total seat booked, then the seat numbers, so seat numbers, and finally the total price. So this information will be shown inside the body, and this information will be shown as the header of the expansion panel. So I'm going to give a constructor for that. So the constructor, and I'm converting it to a named argument as well, formatting the code and putting the required keyword before every properties. So now we have our 2 separate model classes. Now we want to have 2 objects, 2 reference of these 2 classes inside this reservation expansion item. So the first item will be a header item like reservation expansion header, so I'm naming it as header, and another one will be expansion body as the body. And now I need to give a constructor for that. So the constructor will be like this, just doing the same stuff over and over again and putting the required keyword as usual. So we have our reservation expansion item. Now we need to create a list. We need to create a list of reservation expansion item so that we can pass this list to the expansion list. And to do that, we will create a method that will take a bus reservation list. And of course, we need to make a query first. Whenever we come to the reservation page, first of all, we need to query all the reservations from the TameDB reservation list. Okay, so from that list, we will retrieve all the reservation first. And when we are done with this query, we will use that reservation list to make a list of reservation expansion item. So let's go to the app data provider class, and inside the app data provider class, where is that? So let me open the app data provider class here. So inside the app data provider class, we already have a reservation list, and as I can see, there is a spelling mistake. So I'm refactoring this. So Shift F6 and then reservation list. So refactor, and it is changed everywhere it is used. So we have a reservation list, and we need to populate this list as soon as we land in this page. And when we have the reservation list ready, we will create another list using this reservation list to create a list of reservation expansion item. To do that, I'm going to create a new method inside the app data provider class, and that method will actually return a list of expansion panel items. So I'm going to create a new method, and the method return type will be list of reservation expansion item, and the name should be get expansion items. And maybe we need to import this file. Okay, so now we have the reservation list. From that, we need to create a list of reservation item, and we can do that by directly return a new list. So return a new list dot generate, and the length will be the length of reservation list. That means this list. So reservation list. So the length should be the reservation list dot length. We'll have every index for every item or reservation item, and we will return from that. We will return we'll return a reservation or reservation expansion item. We'll return reservation expansion item, and at the last I need to put a semicolon, and I'm not going to directly return or use the fat arrow key. Instead, I am going to give a body of this inner function. And before we return a reservation expansion item, let me just grab the reservation object from this list using this index. So final reservation, that will be reservation list and the index. So now we have the reservation object. Now it's time to return a reservation expansion item that needs 3 separate things to do. And one more thing I forgot to do, that we don't need to pass the expanded value because it will be by default false. So let's go to the reservation expansion item .dirt file, and let's pass the required let's pass the expanded value by default false. And since we are giving a default value, this required keyword is not needed at all. So we don't have to pass this expanded value anymore because it will take the default value as well. Now we need to pass a header section, we need to pass a body section, and we have created separate model classes for header section and body section. As you can see, if you hover over the header argument here, it requires a reservation expansion header object. So let's do that. So reservation expansion header, that requires several informations, and we will get all the information from this reservation object. So let me just reformat the code by pressing Alt, Ctrl and L. We need to pass the ID. We'll get the ID from the reservation. So reservation.reservation ID. The departure date will be reservation.departure date. So simple. So reservation.schedule, maybe boss schedule, okay. And the timestamp will be reservation.timestamp. And finally the status, so reservation.reservation status. And the last thing we need to do is to provide a body, and to do that we need to create a reservation expansion body object. So let's go and create a reservation expansion body and pass the required argument also. So the customer object will be reservation.customer, total seat booked, reservation.total seat booked. Seat numbers will be reservation dot seat numbers, sorry, that will be seat numbers, and this will be the total price, reservation dot total price. So now we have the list of reservation expansion items. All we need to do is to call this method, but we need to call this method after we get all the reservations from the database. That means our temdb file or this list. First of all, we will get all the reservations. Sorry, we will get all the reservations and put all the list of reservation into that list, and then we need to call this method so that we can get a list of reservation expansion item and pass this list to the expansion list. So we'll do that in the next lecture.